everybody. A warm welcome to amazing new podcasts and YouTube channels, the channels where stories of resilience, triumph, and unwavering hope come to life. And in each episode, we dive into the inspiring journey of individuals who have faced the toughest challenges heads-on and emerge victorious. And our aim is to be a beacon of inspiration, offering a guiding light to those navigating through difficult times. And whether you are dealing with health challenges, professional setbacks, or personal struggles, this channel is dedicated to uplifting your spirit and showing you that even in the darkest moments, there is a path to hope and triumph. So join us, everyone, as we share powerful stories that transcend adversity, reminding you that resilience is a force within us all. So I would like to say a big thank you to the audience who've been watching, sharing, listening, and subscribing. I am your host. My name is Dr. Rani Thanacoody. I am a Mars Venus life and relationship coach, a clinical hypnotherapist, astrologer, tarot reader, and life force compassion practitioner. And today, I have the great pleasure to introduce you to another very special guest. Her name is Malorie Avaline. Malorie is a metaphysical teacher, healer, speaker, and retreat host. So very warm welcome to amazing you, Malorie.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor and a pleasure. And I look forward to this conversation today.
Yes, I am really excited, Malorie, to have you today. You know, it's been a few months that we talk, and I'm really, really happy to have you today to talk to the audience, to share your incredible journey. It's very interesting for you to tell us a bit more about your journey and how you, Malorie, you became a spiritual guide and a transformation coach.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I feel like there's so much to dive into there. We all have, I think, such a unique journey to get to where we eventually end up. And I think the journey is always evolving and continuing. But for me personally, and I'll try to put, a piece of my journey or the majority of my journey in a nutshell to really get to where we are today. But yes. I live in the middle of the U.S. I actually live in, what is called the South. And so in the South, religion is just expected, Christianity, all forms of Christianity, whether it's, something orthodox or something a little more non-traditional, it's pretty normal here to grow up in a Christian household. And so I grew up in a Christian household, going to church, typically 3 times a week, twice on Sundays, on Wednesdays, sometimes on the weekend. And so I grew up with a very linear understanding of God. It was taught one way. They very much taught me what to think and how to think, and this is how you live your life, and that's it. And my mom always likes to tell me that I came out of the womb curious. She's like, you were just my curious child. And so I remember growing up in Sunday school, and I danced at a classical ballet school. And at the classical ballet school, there was all kinds of people. So I had friends that were Buddhist, and I had friends that practiced Hinduism, and I was exposed to some different religions. And so I would sit in church and hear the stories they were telling me, and I would ask questions. I would get curious because I'm like, well, my friend over here believes this, and my friend over here believes this. And I started to get really curious about other gods, deities, and energies, the universe from a very young age. But it was really kind of forbidden in my household. We don't study those things. Those things are not of God. Wow. Those things are the opposite of God. We don't study those things. And so growing up, I started to have a little bit of aversion to that model because it just didn't make sense to me that there's nearly 8 billion people on this planet. How could one single religion have gotten it right and everyone else is wrong?
That's interesting.
It just didn't make sense to me, And so fast forward a little bit, I definitely went through some very difficult things in my life that I do talk about openly now, whether it's somebody that I'm working with or I'm speaking on a stage somewhere or at a workshop. These are some key pieces of my journey that I experienced. I was raped at 15 years old. And so growing up in a very Christian household, that you were taught pretty much that your body belongs to your future husband, and if it's tainted, you are tainted material. So I shoved that down. I hid it away. I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't even tell my own sister until I was 29 years old. And so I dealt with that internally by myself. And then I got married very young. I was 21 when I got married, and very quickly found myself in a very abusive marriage. It started out verbal, then it got emotional, and eventually it ended up physical. Well, I did have a son with that husband. My son, just like I told you before we started recording, he just turned 18. He's into his senior year this year. And so I do have a beautiful child out of that marriage, but I left that marriage when he was only a year old, and I went into single motherhood. And I was a single mother. I was, living on government assistance. I was barely making it. I enrolled back in school full time. So I was going to school. I was bartending at night to try to make ends meet, and just, taking care of my son. And there was always this thing in me that felt like I was connected to something bigger. And so I started reading some different books and just getting really curious about the universe as a whole, and trying to find a deeper understanding of God that made more sense to me. And a friend of mine handed me a book, and he said, "Malorie, I think you need to read this book." And that book was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And if anyone's familiar with that book series, there's a few of them. Phenomenal book that, rocked my world. Talk about a paradigm shift. And so that was really like the journey that started getting me curious and has led me to where I am today. And I built up a beautiful career. Like I said, I went back to school as a single mom. I built up a really beautiful career in the beauty industry. I've traveled all over the globe. I've worked with celebrities. I've styled red carpet hair and makeup. I've styled New York Fashion Week. I've personally styled over 1,000 weddings. And I was just going and doing and editorial work and all these really exciting things. But in the meantime, or I guess in my spare time, I started to discover things like meditation. I started to discover some other literature from different parts of the world that articulated their religions in ways that I had not yet discovered. And it just started to build this insatiable curiosity. And I always tell people, I grew up, I think, having this spiritual connection, but it was 2018 that I had what I think people are really starting to refer to as a spiritual awakening. Where I felt like I experienced my highest self, and I started to hover over my body. And I would hover over my own body while I was sleeping and watch myself there. And I became really curious. And so I started just researching, these out of body experiences, experiences with your divine self and the spirit realm. And it stirred up this insatiable curiosity in me. And, we all know what the year 2020 was for all of us. And I too was greatly affected by that, because I did have a brick and mortar business at that time. I owned a salon. And during that time, that was a big pivotal time for me. We're all in our homes. We're all locked up. No one really knows what's going on. We really don't know how long we're going to be in the house. And so let me just tell you, my bookshelf grew during the year of 2020. And I got my hands on everything that I could. I discovered something called the New Testament, that is an extension of our Bible. I discovered the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I discovered some different literature on the Sufis, just all of these beautiful world religions. And I started to kind of piece some things together. and realized that there was so much more to this God thing. You know, I think here in America, so many people call
Yes.
creator of the universe God, the name we have for him, you know, even this emphasis on him. And so I started to, the way I say it to people is that was the year that I took God out of the sky. I no longer looked at God as this outside entity that's somewhere up in the heavens or the ethers that's just waiting to punish everyone, but I brought God within. And I started to look at God as a form of consciousness and this infinite intelligence that we tap into. And shortly after that year ended, so sometime in early 2021, I enrolled in a school online that is through Emerson Theological, and I started studying to become a spiritual practitioner. So I spent 2 years getting my spiritual practitioner license, which it's through New Thought. And if you know anything about New Thought, it's very much founded on the science of mind.
Okay.
And this whole idea around consciousness and us being connected to this divine source. And we're never separate from it. But because we have a consciousness and a subconsciousness, we begin to experience things in our life that separate us from this intelligence. They don't really separate us, but we think that we're separated from it because we have all this trauma and we have all these things that we've experienced in our lives. And it was through that program that I was really able to heal things like the rape, the abusive marriage, the limited thoughts and patterns that I had experienced in my life. And really just, it consumed my world, and it's led me down a beautiful path. I'm actually finishing becoming a New Thought minister, and it's just continued. And now,
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. So it's led me to where I am now, which is a practicing, spiritual practitioner. And I host retreats and I host workshops and I work with people one-on-one. And really what we're doing is we're diving into the subconscious mind. We're reconnecting you. I always tell people, I want to help people remember. And when I say remember, I remember, put ourselves back together before the world told us what we were. I think we all go through these different traumas, whether it's in our family unit when we're a small child, or in a relationship or a friendship, or around our sexuality or around our religion, whatever it is, we begin to divide who we really are. And so through this work of consciousness and the science of mind, I've really come to understand that we're all part of a greater whole. We're all connected to this divine intelligence, and that there is truly a wisdom within us, that it's not outside of us. Nothing outside of us is going to fix us or be our solution. But there's this inner wisdom that's there that really helps us to understand ourselves better and find more peace and find more joy and find more fulfillment. And so it's been quite a journey in my life to get me to where I am now, but I'm so incredibly grateful. I think that the things that I've been through allow me to move about life with more empathy and an open heart to people that are going through these different things. And so through the work that I do, it's my hope to offer encouragement and healing for anyone that's looking for those things.
Wow. Thank you, Malorie. What an incredible journey, from you being a hairdresser to now being a metaphysical teacher and having experienced so many things in your young age. And you said a lot of things, but I'm going to take a few of them and ask you to elaborate and clarify. You mentioned that you were raped at the age of 15. And how did you, because you said you didn't express yourself to anybody until you were 29. What were your ways of dealing with all these suppressed emotions that you kept inside of you? Can you share with us? Because there might be people who are today listening and watching and who have experienced similar issue like you, but they don't know. And they've been suppressing that. And can you tell us what were the ways you used to, how did you cope in suppressing all these emotions and in coping with life? Malorie, thank you.
Yes, of course. I think it's a really important question. And I think it's a very real answer that I'm going to give. The first few years of coping was very unhealthy, very healthy. I started dabbling in drugs.
Okay.
I mean, by the time I was 18, you know, and from the time I was 18, say about 22, 23, there was a lot of drug use. And I mean, hard drugs.
Okay.
I mean, by the grace of God, or, you know, by the grace of this connection that I have with the universe, however you want to articulate it, I woke up to myself. And I never went to rehab. I never, you know, went through a program or anything like that. But I was sitting in my floor crying one day, and I just said, whoever's out there, you know, God, the universe, whoever's listening, this thing within me that wants more out of my life, I'm done. I'm done. And I really surrendered in that moment and said, I want to do better. I want to choose better. And if anyone knows, I made a decision in that moment. And if anyone knows, you know, the word decision is actually a really powerful word, because decide means to cut off. So I decided in that moment I was going to cut off all of the unhealthy ways that I was coping, and I wanted something more. And later that year, that was the year that I got pregnant with my son. And so I was sober when I got pregnant. I had a pretty rough pregnancy, actually, because I was married to an abuser. And when my son was a year old, I got brave enough to leave. And that's when I started coping in healthier ways. I started reading. People started talking to me about meditation. I didn't really know anything about meditation. And really, I didn't ever practice meditation until around that time at 29 years old, when I decided to tell my sister. I was sitting in my bedroom one day, and this is why I say the wisdom is within us. There's nothing outside of us that is going to fix us or heal us. Now, do we have tools? Do we have people that can guide us? Yes. But I think a good healer, a good practitioner, a good teacher guides people back to themselves. And I think that there was this, I know now today that there's this inner wisdom that's within us. And I sat down and I began to meditate, and I began to ask, what do I need to see to continue to heal myself? What do I need to see? And for the first time ever, I brought that memory up in my consciousness, and it was very visceral. I could smell the smell of the house. I could see the haziness from the lights and the smoke that was in the room. It's as if I was there, but it was as if I wasn't me. I was viewing me. I was me, but I was watching me. And I watched the whole thing take place. And I'm sitting here with my eyes closed in a very meditative state, and I watch everything happen. I watch myself walk to the back room. I watch myself lay down. I watch this young man come in there. I watch the whole scene of what takes place. And I started to weep. But it was in that moment that I looked at that young, naive 15-year-old girl who put herself in a position that she really shouldn't have been in at all. And I forgave her. And I looked at that young man who, in that moment, I knew wasn't raised in a good home, wasn't raised in a home that parents taught him to respect others, privacy, autonomy. And I forgave that man. And so there was this weight, and I get chills, full body chills, as I even revisit that memory, because it was so visceral for me. And I began to bawl my eyes out. I mean, I just sat there and cried. And it's like, if anyone knows, you know, we know what shame feels like in our body. We know what guilt feels like in our body. And it's like, for the first time, it left. I was no longer punishing myself. I was able to forgive the two people that the version of them existed in that timeline. And through that, there was so much healing that took place, and I was able to actually talk about it and articulate it. And before that moment, it just felt like this super deep, dark secret that I had to keep tucked away. And in that moment, I felt like I released that. And that was the first time that I really discovered the power of meditation, or revisiting things that are in the subconscious mind and releasing the negative emotional charge around them.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Malorie. That is really powerful, to have also experienced that out of body experience, and to be able to see everything, and that gives you such a deep understanding of yourself, but of the people around you, and of the whole of the experiences you've been going through. Yeah. And have you had other out of body experience since then, Malorie?
Oh, many, many,
Yes.
many.
And how have they helped you in your growth?
Oh gosh, they've helped me. They've helped me in many ways, but another one that was very profound for me, and it was somebody in my life that I was very close to, that I was really having a lot of animosity with. And you have to think, I was on this journey of healing, of expressing. I wanted to walk in love. I was trying to walk in grace and forgiveness and openness. And this particular person in my life was really attacking me verbally, mentally, emotionally. And it didn't feel good. I had a lot of guilt around it, and I was really struggling with it. Like, why does this person that I love so much see me this way? And I went to bed that night.
Yes.
A lot of my visions, out of body experiences happen in that sleep state. And this spirit appeared at the side of my bed and said, "I want you to come with me." I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." I mean, it felt terrifying. It felt all consuming, and it felt big, and it felt royal almost. And it
Can
said,
you
"Come."
describe to us what that being looked like?
So the being was very tall. I would say, if I had to give it a particular height, I would say about 8 feet.
Okay.
And large in stature. It was a male energy. Now, I couldn't see particular facial features, but it was a male energy. And it felt very, I guess, angelic for what we know angels to be in how they're described to us. It felt very angelic and glowing, like this light being, like a light body. And it said, "Come with me." And it was interesting because although I felt very at peace, I also felt very not afraid as in a scared way, but afraid as in, whoa, this is a very powerful source that's in front of me.
Okay.
And he's, but not with his mouth, but he spoke, and I heard,
Yeah.
"Come with me. I want to show you something." I said, "Okay." And I grabbed this hand, and all of a sudden we were in a house.
Okay.
And I was seeing what was going on in that house at that time. And I won't talk about too much of it here because it is going to be a story that's inside of my book. But I was shown things in that moment with that spirit that confirmed all of the questions that I had going on. And it was in that moment that this being turned to me and said, "See, it's not your fault. This is what she's experiencing in her life that is causing her to lash out at you in this way." In that moment, I was able to have so much compassion for her because I recognized what was going on in her life that she was not sharing with anyone.
Yeah.
And so then this being takes me, and it was almost like a flip book, if you were to like something really quickly and you see all these different images. This being showed me, it said, "See, remember all the good things you've done for people." And it just showed me. And it in that moment, I knew what was being projected on me was not my fault, that it was being projected on me because of pain, because of sorrow that was going on in this person's life. And then all of a sudden it says, "I'm going to take you back to your room now." And I'm back in my room, and it was one of those times that I saw myself laying there. I saw myself laying on my bed, just sleeping peacefully. And I thought, wow, how incredible that this spirit of ours, this soul, can move about the earth and see different things in different realms and go learn lessons and then take them back into our waking life. And I woke up that morning, and I mean, I shot up out of bed, and I was sitting straight up, and I just couldn't even believe what just took place. And so there's been a few moments like that in my life where this divine intelligence, a lot of the times that's how I refer to this spirit, this creator, the isness of the universe. And so this divine intelligence that's available to us if we make ourselves available to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Malorie. That is so true. And you know, I think we need to realize that and understand that whatever has happened to us, it's not our fault, you know. We were just children, whatever situation happened to us, and that we are never alone. Even if the physical people around us do not understand or make us feel alone, we are never alone. Like you have that experience of that beautiful being. So because we are more than just this body, we are multidimensional. That's why we can travel, we can live out of this body and go to different places as well. And okay, Malorie, thank you so much for sharing all these great experiences of the out-of-body experience. And I would like to ask you if you can give one suggestion to the audience for anybody who is facing some tough times. What one practice that you can share with them to help them to uplift themselves in whatever situation they find themselves?
Yeah. So I believe deeply in a few things.
Okay.
One of them is somatics, things like breath work, sound healing, ecstatic dance, things like this that help to regulate the nervous system, release stuck, stagnant energy. You know, think of it, we're energetic beings. And so think about it.
Yeah.
If something traumatic happens or something really stressful happens, we store that trauma in our cells. We're storing that stagnant energy in our bodies. And so one of the things that I didn't share is that I grew up a classical ballerina. I grew up dancing. And so I very much have a love of dance. And so one of the things that we'll do at some of my events that I host is we'll have ecstatic dance. And ecstatic dance is not choreographed. It's not you're trying to copy what someone else is doing. You know, it could be shaking your wrist. It could be circling your hips. It could be, you know, just releasing tension in the body. That's one way to get stuck energy out. And another thing that I deeply believe in is something that's so simple. And I just call it a pattern interrupt, because our thoughts create things. You know, I think in the world that we live in today, in our society, manifestation has become so popular. It's such a popular term. But what I like to remind people is that you're always manifesting. You were manifesting before you even heard the word manifesting, right? We're creating the reality that we live in with the thoughts that we think. And if something negative or a perceived bad situation is going on in our lives, think about how we feel when that happens, right? We ruminate on it. We repeat it. We're like, oh my God, I should have said this, or that could have been different. And we get stuck in this cycle in our head of creating more negative thoughts. Well, if thoughts create things and we're just in a negative thought pattern, we're going to create more negativity. And so I tell people, interrupt the pattern, quit thinking about it. If you're just in it and you're in your house or you're in your office, leave. Go get in nature, go take a walk around the park, go sit somewhere else, go call that friend that you know is going to make you laugh, that they just always make you laugh and they make you feel good. Go pattern interrupt, because if you're just in that negative thought cycle, it's going to continue to perpetuate. Go pattern interrupt, go do something you enjoy, go ride a bike, go get out in nature, do something to interrupt that negative thought pattern, and you'll start to relax into your body as well. But those are some of my favorite ways to just kind of shake that energy. Now, there are a plethora of other ways when it comes to healing. I know you're a hypnotherapist. I do a lot of NLP and subconscious work. So there's a lot of different modalities out there to help us go beyond that patterning. But those are just some of my favorite quick go-tos that I apply in my life as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that, because I tell my clients to do the same thing, to shake their hands, shake their body, whichever part, to just move the energy, move that stuck energy, because those energies have been stuck for years and years in our body, and we can release that. So it's our responsibility to do the work. Yes, thank you so much. And I know you've read a lot of books. You were talking about these books by Donald Welsh. And among all these books that you've read, could you share with us the most impactful books that you've encountered, and how have these books influenced you?
Yes. Well, like I mentioned, Conversations with God was a book that rocked my world. If anyone is like me and coming out of dogmatic Christianity, this is a beautiful book series. I mean, it's a beautiful book series for anyone, but it answers a lot of questions that I had. And he takes you on a journey. I mean, this man himself didn't even become an author until his late 40s. He was very frustrated with church. He was frustrated with religion. He was going through a lot of really hard things in his own life. And out of his own frustration, he grabs a legal pad and starts angrily scribbling questions out to God. And then the story is that the pen begins to write back, and it's a different handwriting, and that God begins to answer his questions. And it's a profound book that helped me really start to peel back the lens of religion and see God for something entirely different. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you listen, I love a good book in hand. I'm a highlighter, underliner. I want to do all of that. But this book in particular is beautiful, the audio version, because you hear the voice of God as both a male and a female.
Wow.
And as a woman who thought most of our life that God is a man, and if God is not in a body, and God doesn't live in this binary system, and God is without gender, then how is God a he? I started to look at God as he, she God, mother, father God. And this book does a really beautiful job for that. So for anyone that's, kind of deconstructing or wanting a deeper understanding of God, really beautiful book. Two of the other books that really have changed my life. One of them is The Biology of Belief. And it's all about consciousness, miracles, unleashing the potential of your life. And it's by Bruce Lipton. And he breaks down scientifically the biology of your brain, the biology of a belief system, and how it has an effect on every area of our lives. And if we want to experience the oneness with the universe, and we desire more miracles in our life, it's simply a shift in perspective. It's raising your awareness. It's expanding your consciousnness that allows you to unleash these things. But he is a scientist. And so he really breaks it down in a beautiful scientific way. That's another one of my favorite books. I buy it for a lot of people that are, on this spiritual awakening path. And I would say the third book, which is a pretty weighty book, and it's actually right here next to me. I love anything by Ernest Holmes. I love The Science of Mind. There's different versions of this. There's one of them that's called Living the Science of Mind. And so it's how to apply these things. But I think one of my passions is to really bridge the gap between science and spirituality. I grew up believing that it was either or. You either believe in God or you believe in science. And I just I don't believe that way anymore. I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm right here, and it says, until you see God in everything, you don't see God in anything. Because the way, and I love it because it starts conversations
Yeah.
often. And I see God in nature. I see God in other people. Because for me, God is this divine intelligence that we are an extension of. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only transfer. And so when this physical body is non-existent anymore, our energy goes to something. And if we go to something, did we not come from something? And so I just see this beautiful energetic exchange of souls. And this book has really helped me bridge the gap between science and spirituality. And it was part of my program when I became a spiritual practitioner. But it's a book that I mean, it's got beautiful meditations in it. And it just really helps you understand the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and
Yeah.
how to apply those principles to your life. And so those are books that I go to often that really shifted paradigms for me. And there's so many more. I'm an avid reader, but if I were to pick three that have dramatically changed my life and the way that I think, it's those.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these three impactful books. And I can relate to the biology of beliefs because I went to a seminar by Dr. Bruce Lipton where he explained the book and where he talks about how spirituality and science merge together and how they work together so well when you are able to bring that together. Yeah, thank you so much, Malorie, for sharing that. We are coming towards the end of this podcast. It's been wonderful talking to you, and
Yes.
we have to finish soon. My last question to you is, can you tell us about everything that you do, and how can people reach out to you?
Yes. Well, like I started this podcast out with, I'll bring it full circle. We're always evolving. I believe that our truth evolves. I believe that our passions evolve. I believe that the work in the world we do evolves. And so I do a few different things, and it's continuing to evolve as I step into becoming an author. And so I'm just now at the beginning stages of writing my own book and sharing these experiences and sharing how I've come full circle in my life. But I work with people one-on-one. I also host retreats. I host events. Some of them are really small gatherings, 10 people. And sometimes I have 100 women in the room, and they're larger gatherings. And so I always put those on my website, which is malorieavaline.com. And I always put the upcoming events on my website. But I think the thing that's really next for me that I'm really focusing on is more speaking. I've had the opportunity to speak on some beautiful stages to some beautiful groups of people. And I just see more and more that's the direction that my life is currently pivoting into. And I'm getting more opportunities to do that. And so a lot of different speaking engagements, more writing, and more teaching. I think that you're very much into astrology, and one of the things that I love to do my astrological chart each year and do the forecast for what's coming. And one of the things that she has told me is that it's not enough for me to know the truth. I have to go teach the truth. And that resonates so much with me because the more I discover, these different beautiful truths about the universe and universal law and consciousness, I know how much liberation it's provided me in my life. And I want to go out and teach those things. And so workshops, seminars, small and large events, books, speaking engagements, that's really how I show up in the world. And if anyone wants to connect with me on how to do that, or, bring me in to speak or facilitate at an event, there's a lot of different things that I offer. And that's really what I'm focusing on. And in this coming next, I would say year to year and a half, that's the goal.
Thank you, Malorie. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and listening to all your experiences, and it's been really a wonderful time with you. I would like to wish you the very best in every future endeavors in all these exciting things ahead, your book, speaking engagement, and more writing. So really wish you a lot of success. And I would like to say thank you to the audience for watching, sharing, listening, and subscribing. And take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.